If I asked you to describe Paolo in 3 words, what would you go with?
Charismatic.
Passionate.
Complex.
Crazy.
Volatile, passionate.
Real.
Demanding of high standards, certainly.
Likeable.
And pure.
Hi mate, is Mr. Di Canio around?
Yes.
Could I be able to speak to him at all? No chance. How come? Well, my name's Joe. I'm making a film about him as it happens.
Are you?
Yeah.
He sits on the floor, I swear, in front of the dugout, crosses his arms, and then he goes like that. I don't play no more. I'm saying, Paolo, get up, we're losing 4-2 at the back.
So that's Paolo Di Canio, someone I've been obsessed with since I was a kid. And this is me, on the right. I'm a Hibs fan, but because of Paolo, I made my parents buy me a Celtic top. Shocking, I know. I was in Sunderland earlier this year, and I tried to meet him then, but this was as close as I came. So this summer, I made it my mission to actually speak to him.
Hi there, my name's Joe Birchenow. I'm trying to speak to Mr. Paolo Di Canio. Hi there. Hello? Hi, Keith. Hi there. Hi. Hello?
It wasn't going very well. In fact,
This is really annoying and difficult.
it was going pretty badly. Almost every phone call ended just like this one.
There's no chance then, no. Okay. Alright, well, thanks for your time anyway. Thank you, bye.
Calling wasn't helping me, so I decided to force the issue a bit and to go and meet a few people who knew him. Maybe they'd be able to tell me about him, and hopefully to get me in touch with him.
I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest with you. I used to watch this guy play football as a kid, and now I'm here apparently to interview him.
I'd come to meet Jackie McNamara, former teammate of Di Canio's from his time at Celtic.
This is questions at Di Canio.
Yeah, exactly. Were you ever mates with him at all?
Mates, colleagues.
Yeah, but not friends then, no.
I got in with him, but it's not someone that, I would invite over for a holiday or anything like that.
Right, okay.
Personally, I found that a little surprising, because I imagined Paolo would be great company. Anyway, I got chatting to Jackie, but it started to seem like the PR bulldog behind me may have been holding him back. Look at him eyeing up my questions. I knew Paolo was controversial, but I really didn't think it was going to be this difficult to get people to talk about him. I tried to keep it friendly, so I asked him about his memories from their time together.
He was quite a charismatic character. I think he had a time at Celtic. I'm sure we were told he had a clothes shop over in Italy, but it must have been some shop. Some of his gear was horrendous. The tightest wearing stuff you've ever seen.
Yeah, he's continued that today actually. He still wears quite tight suits, doesn't he? Was he popular in the dressing room, would you say?
Yeah, I'd say he was a popular guy. He was, again, I think because his character, he was well received on and off the park. The Celtic fans loved him. His mannerisms. He said he was a very hard worker. Same in the games, things on. He had a wee side to him as well that I've seen him crack a few times in the training ground.
Okay. What's that like? What's it like when he cracks, so to speak?
I thought it was quite funny. But that was, again, after it was fine.
Yeah, he's got that kind of the passionate, fiery Italian kind of character to him, definitely.
But he's just very intense and very passionate, and I think people like to see that. I think there's a lot there's a lot of scepticism about football these days amongst fans because it's so expensive to go. People earn so much money, and you think, well, does he actually really care? And when they go home, they're not still in the huff like I am, you know. But I kind of get the impression that Di Canio probably would be still in quite a big huff and probably kick the cat, you know.
And the fans love to see someone who's really involved with the way that, you know, on the maybe feeling the same way that they do about the game.
I was surprised by the fascism allegations earlier this year.
Nah, to be honest, I've never seen that. Never seen that in Paolo. Surprised, you know, if it was the case. But again, like everything, unless I see something for myself, I don't believe it. As I said, he's a likeable guy. He's a good sense of humour. I don't think he ever walked past a mirror without pouting at it.
Okay.
So
I've heard that actually. I've heard he's quite self-conscious about his image, and it's something he tries to work a lot on. Is that something you could agree with?
Yeah.
So what? He just dresses up, perfume.
It's different just to call us up and talk to yourself in the mirror. And I think he's the first player I've seen like shave himself, shave his legs, shave everything, you know, and up to that.
Does he really?
He did then. I don't know what he does now.
Why did he do that? What did he say he was doing that for?
Aerodynamics, I don't know. You have to ask him. That's the first time I've ever seen a player doing that. And again, at the mirror, in his favourite position up in the corner of the dressing room.
Have you got a phone number for him?
I haven't.
So you can't get me in touch with him, no? It's unlucky. Alright mate, no worries.
No problem.
Thought I'd try it anyway. Thank you very much. Thanks so much for your time.
I wasn't convinced by Jackie's no, but I didn't have time to argue. My parents were going down to York, so I could get a ride to Sunderland for free.
Are you hungry? I can kind of eat.
But there was no time for food. My next interviewee had emailed to say he could meet up a little earlier than we'd planned. I was meeting Chris Young, a local journalist who had met and interviewed Paolo on countless occasions.
I was talking to Jackie McNamara, who used to play with him, and he used the word crazy in the three that I was given to describe him. You know, what would you say to that?
I think you can certainly see that in his character. Yeah, he's a jack in the box on the touchline. He's a maverick. He's a maverick. He's an eccentric with some of his methods, with some of the things he says about his players and about himself. But
I think that's what you get. You know, if you have a beautiful girlfriend, she's probably going to be a bit of a pain in the arse, you know. And it's a bit like that with Di Canio, you know. He's very, very passionate, very, very sort of animated on the touchline. So when things don't go his way, he's obviously going to go crazy.
People will look at it that they've appointed an Italian manager with a controversial past, but I genuinely believe that the fact that he's willing to embrace the North East will help him, because that's what the North East's like. Whatever background, whatever it tends to be, if you're putting your whole heart into it, that people will back you.
Jackie McNamara also said he was a bit image conscious. You know, he was always in the mirror and he was always fixing his hair. Apparently he used to shave his entire body.
Yeah,
Please don't
he
use
still
that
does his legs.
Does he really? Oh my god, got that. So yeah, I mean, is that something you could agree with, that he is sort of obsessed with his idea of himself?
He talks about himself in the third person. Yeah. So yeah, I think you could say that. Yeah.
Paolo Di Canio does this and does that. There is a slightly manic side to him. But it's good, it's colourful, you know. It gives a bit of, in what can be an industry full of bland quotes and bland people, and you know, players and managers who just want to keep their heads down and not get involved. You know, hey, it's great.
I've heard he's really intelligent and that he's massive on history. Do you know anything about that?
He is, yeah. He loves all his Roman history.
Yeah. I heard, I mean, even Sunderland specific, I heard...
You could go and speak to him now and ask him a question on what Sunderland did in 1896, and he'd probably be able to tell you.
Yeah, he's a clever guy, and lots of managers you'll speak to and they'll give you statistics that are never right. Jokineer being the prime example over the last few weeks. But Di Canio's, they're always spot on. He definitely does his homework. He puts the hours in, no question about that.
Yeah, he is a real hard worker, but not only that, he expects his staff to be exactly the same. If he doesn't believe a player is pulling his weight, then he's shown the same sort of capacity as what Paolo does, then I think he will get rid of him. And because Paolo Di Canio demands hard work, if it's on the training ground, if it's on the pitch, if it's probably if it's in the swimming pool, if they were on the, you know what I mean, he would demand that every player and every member of staff gives his all.
So when he came in last season, he was working sort of 15, 16-hour days at the academy, both brushing up on his own players and those of the team he'd be facing. Okay. And also, as we saw at the end of last season with the Phil Bardsley and Matt Kilgallen casino incident, professionalism is obviously a key thing for him. He doesn't like people straying out and not sort of holding themselves right as footballers.
Yeah, it's good. I like to see that. So he is a very hard worker. You were talking about earlier, 8 till
8 till midnight. Was regular. Yeah, I think he got record marks and passing his UEFA badges as well. So
okay. Wow, really?
Yeah. He's not just the character you see on the touchline. There is something behind him as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to find out with this documentary, if I'm being honest. Is there any way you could help me get in touch with him?
No, not really. I haven't got a number for him though.
Thanks anyway. Thanks.
No problem.
Cheers.
So Chris couldn't help me either. I was starting to notice a bit of a pattern. Why was Paolo so difficult to get in touch with?
Interview with BBC today.
When?
Anytime. It says it's fine.
So we headed off to Newcastle to meet Nick Barnes, a BBC commentator who, like Chris, had met Paolo loads of times. I felt sure he could get me in touch with him.
Hi, Joe.
How are you?
Hi, fine. Very well.
Good. Cool.
I was told by another journalist that Ellis Short actually met Di Canio in a restaurant in London.
Yeah.
And more or less Di Canio just, gifted the gab, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, there is. I mean, he is charismatic. There's no question. I mean, he is. He's a small guy, and he makes up for his lack of stature in charisma. He has got a presence. There's no doubt. I mean, and he fuels that sort of effervescence by his whole demeanour. He's quite. He's articulate. He likes to gesticulate, and his tone again. He uses it all to embody this sort of very charismatic person. And
whatever reservations you have about his political past, and I know a lot of people. I've got friends who will not set foot in the Stadium of Light again, and who've been dedicated fans all their lives. But once you meet him, it's hard not to warm to him because he is so enthusiastic and so passionate about the game.
And I think that we will have some massive blow-ups and confrontations and passionate sort of throwing his toys out the pram. But at the same time, we've seen games where he's managed to kind of spur the players on and give them that extra bit.
Do you feel like he needs to be the centre of attention?
Oh, unquestionably. I think that's the character. He is. Everything is built around Di Canio. His coaching staff, I think, are all. He brought them in because they are enthralled to him. They are his men. He is the boss.
How much do you think personally that he plays up to this idea of him being eccentric and the unique one? Even he walked in his first press conference and said that, didn't he? So,
yeah, without a question, I think he plays up to it. I think he's canny enough to know that he's got this image of being the slightly mad Italian. But I think he knows that's it's a good front as well to have that sort of slightly mad Italian. If something goes a little bit awry, he's got a little bit of a defence in that. Well, I'm bonkers. I'm mad. That's what I do. That's. But underneath it all, I think he is very astute. I mean, we talk about his work ethic. Diligence and understatement. I mean, he's very, very thorough when it comes to research on opposition, on players, his knowledge of the game, his knowledge of other teams, his knowledge of other players. There's this voracious appetite behind the facade of the mad Italian, because behind that, it hides this extraordinarily hard-working, diligent, very astute coach.
What did you make of when he called his Swindon players chihuahuas? Have you heard about that?
It's that to me that doesn't surprise me. It's Di Canio expressing himself. I mean, I say he's quote worthy. I mean, he will always come out with the newspapers will love him because there'll always be something from Di Canio of that ilk. And the Premier League, in a sense, is the perfect platform for him because he's going to get so much exposure. So there's a lot of pressure on Di Canio, in a sense, to abide by the rules, but you just know with him, somewhere down the line, something will happen.
Nick didn't have a phone number either, but he had told me there was a press conference later that day, so we headed off to the Academy of Light. I felt like this was the first sign of real progress.
I'm pretty sure that is a sign that's going to tell us, or it's going to say, welcome to Sunderland. Which means that in order to get to the Sunderland training centre, you actually have to leave Sunderland. It's hotter in England than it is in Scotland.
I'd already spoken to the Sunderland PR department and they'd been no help at all, but I thought that if I had Nick on my team, maybe I might get a chance to speak to Paolo.
I'm going to go and speak to the guard and see if I can talk to Mr. Di Canio.
Somewhat unsurprisingly, the guard was no help at all, so now it was just a case of waiting for Nick to come outside.
Hi.
How did that go?
It's all right. I had just a long wait, 2-hour wait for the players, that's all.
Okay, fair play.
But that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes.
I forgot to ask you earlier, can you put me in touch with Di Canio?
It's all through the press office. All our dealings are through Louise.
Yeah.
That's the only way we get hold of him.
Okay.
So I won't see him now till probably the first week of the season.
So, unfortunately, I mean, this one I felt relatively good about. We're in the training ground. He's just done an interview, but he can't put me in touch with him either.
This was the second letter I'd written to Paolo, but I figured it couldn't hurt to try again. I had learnt a lot about him, which was good, but I hadn't really come any closer to actually meeting him, which was quite annoying. I wasn't about to give up though. I went to his hotel to drop off the letter, but they wouldn't let me film myself doing this. It didn't matter. I was off to London. I was meeting Gabriele Marcoy, the man who wrote Paolo's book. He's pretty much the next best thing to the man himself, so if he couldn't get me in touch with Paolo, nobody could. It was my last chance to avoid waiting outside his hotel.
Morning.
Hi, Gabby. How are you?
Very well, very well.
Cool.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I knew Gabby would be able to give me a clearer picture of Paolo, and I was keen to see if he'd seen the hard-working traits that everyone else had talked about. So I asked him what it was like working with him.
I mean, I obviously wrote the book, but he was constantly churning ideas, constantly, ringing me late at night, and he's like, hey, did you know, I mentioned this thing about that, I now remember that and this, and it was such a collaborative thing. He got so into it. And I think that's how he approaches everything. I mean, you talk to managers who worked with him, and they'll tell you about his work ethic, the way he approaches things. I know in his time at Swindon, for example, before going to Sunderland, he was basically in this big house in the country with his dog, and a large screen TV. And what he did was when he'd come home from work, he would watch football. And he was so completely immersed in it.
Why did he describe himself as the unique one in his first press conference?
I don't know. I think, obviously the parallel with Mourinho is almost too obvious. But yeah, I think if you look at it, if you talk about, somebody who was born with a congenital defect in his leg, somebody who suffered depression, somebody who nearly lost his legs, somebody who was a traveling supporter of a football club and paid his own money to follow his team all around the country. All this before he ever kicked the ball as a professional. You kind of realize you're sort of going in a certain direction there, and then you throw in all the rest. The man, the UEFA Fair Play Prize, the incredible return to Lazio, the goal in the dark. All this stuff. It does give you a pretty unique perspective. I think in particular, the fact that he had been a fan, and the fact that, again, talk about unique, he took a 75% pay cut to go back and play for Lazio, the team. He had another year left at Charlton. He chose to go back and do that. A lot of footballers, blah, 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 how much they love their club. But you don't see too many of them putting their money where their mouth is. I think he's a tremendous sense of justice and of opportunity. And, you know, and I mean, he lived this himself, growing up where he grew up in, you know, difficult economic conditions. You know, he has a natural sense of the outsider, of the weaker part. He's a lot more sort of self-aware and analytical than people think he is. People just think this is not who runs around. But he's a very bright guy. He's very aware of why people view him a certain way. He's very aware of the fact that if he were to make different choices, he might have an easier way, an easier time with certain things.
He seems quite like a family man as well, just from the book, just reading the amount of references towards his wife, his children. I mean, I guess, like you say, it is in the past, but...
Certainly the time that I've known him, which is from the moment he came to Celtic, his family's been the focus of his life. You know, as a player, he would train, he would play, come home, train some more at home, and then watch TV and read books. He didn't go out, he didn't party. So that was very much his little world, was his family outside of football. Although he does have, you know, he has some other interests, the wine business, you know, he has a clothes shop.
Did he ever get his delicatessen?
What?
Did he ever get his delicatessen? He said he wanted one.
I'm not sure that he did, actually, but he, you know, he is generally very much, you know, a family-oriented person. That's pretty much who he is.
Do you have a phone number for him at all? Could you call him and let me say hi to him at all?
He is the way he is, you know, when he wants to, even with me. When he wants to pick up the phone and answer, he does. If not, you know, he'll come back a few weeks later, so, you know.
Okay. I thought I'd try. Don't worry, you're not alone. No one else can help me on that front, so. But thank you very much.
No problem.
Really
My pleasure.
appreciate this, man.
My pleasure.
I knew what I had to do.
It's now 1932, which means that if everyone's correct about Paolo, he won't be home yet. It's a mixture of good and bad. Good news is that he's not here. Bad news is that we now have to wait. It's now almost 9:10. And we've seen one car.
I was beginning to lose hope, but suddenly he appeared, and I tried to think of something clever to say, but I could tell immediately that we weren't really wanted. His assistant, Fabrizio Picaretta, actually told us to stop filming, which we did at the time, but we stuck the camera back on when I started speaking to Paolo.
Paolo, I wrote you a letter a month ago. I wrote you a letter a month ago asking if I could get 5 minutes of your time. I'm not trying to put you under pressure, I'm just...
Wait. We can't talk to him, you know, now.
I just want to speak to you for 5 minutes. I used to watch you play at Celtic.
Now we got meeting, I'm sorry, but we got meeting. So we can't now, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Respectful, but...
Yeah. No, I don't want to be disrespectful either. I understand you're with your friends. I don't want to put you under pressure.
No, we are not friends at work.
Sorry, I mean, I don't want to interrupt anything. Okay.
Anyway, thanks. Okay.
No, okay. I just talked to him. I just talked to Paolo di Canio. It went terribly. The footage is crap. You can't see anything. But I talked to him. Although it's now 12:15 and the bus is in half an hour and we're miles away. So, bye. Woo!